Okay, we are recording. Like I said, my name is Jessie. I am the newest member of the ATAC team, and we are here today for a Tech Spotlight series. I have with me Mr. Chambers. He is going to talk with us today about Glean. So I pass it over to you.
Thank you very much. I will start by sharing my screen, if that is okay. If you give me 2 seconds, I'll make sure I'm sharing the correct screen. Hopefully you can see my screen now. If you can just confirm that, that would be fantastic.
You got it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So first of all, thank you for having me on the webinar. I'm not sure if anyone has spoken to me before or been on any of our webinars. We have done one of these before. You can probably tell from the accent that I am from the UK. It's about just after 5 p.m. here in the UK. Hopefully we won't get disturbed, but my children have just arrived back from school recently. They've been told to leave daddy alone while he does his webinar. But if a little child runs in at some point, you've been pre-warned. Now, my plan, very simply, is to give you a good overview of what Glean is, because I assume there are some people here who might have heard of it before, but I'm going to also have to assume there are people here who've never seen it before. So hopefully by the end of this, you will know a lot more about it. I've got about 5 or 6 slides I want to run through just to set the scene a little bit first, but the bulk of this is going to be showing you the text so you can see what it actually does and how you could utilize it. So first of all, if you have not come across Glean before, you may not know that it is a tool that helps anyone with note-taking difficulties. And note-taking is a very, very hard thing to do. There are lots of different reasons why people find note-taking hard. I think some of them are that it can be really difficult as a student, and you are a student right now. I am teaching, you're my students. It's really difficult to be fully present and engage in a session and listen to somebody and really think about the information and try to take a useful set of notes at the same time. If you don't believe me, try to do it in this webinar. It's hard because you're not going to be able to listen to me and look at the things that I'm showing you and think about all of this and take notes at the same time. And that's before you even consider any additional challenges that someone may have. So it's a difficult thing for everybody. And undoubtedly, you're going to miss stuff. You will miss some important information that I go through in my demo. And if you had an exam or an assignment or something like that to do on our AT and you've missed that important information and you can't remember it, well, you're probably going to find it quite difficult to pass that exam and have anything that you can study from. And I think you mentioned it there, you are recording this session. And that's quite commonplace now using technology to be able to record class. But it doesn't always solve the problem because this session's not too bad. It's going to be like half an hour, I think. Going through a half an hour video, that's workable, I suppose. But if you were recording an hour-long class, 2 hour-long class even, and you wanted to go through that recording afterwards and find the things that were actually relevant and you care about, you'll find it's a very time-consuming and tedious process. And most people really don't want to have to do that. So there are lots of reasons why it's challenging. And that's what we try to help with. And what you'll see in the demo is how we scaffold the note-taking process and really break it down into more simplified steps. So without going through the details, because I'm going to show you this, what Glean allows you to do, first of all, is to capture all the information from class so that you don't have to worry about writing everything down. It allows you to engage in the moment a bit easier. We then give you some tools that help you to organize all of the information you've captured. So for example, you can bring in presentation slides if they're available. You can transcribe all of the audio as well. And then we've got some AI powered functions that will allow you to make sense of the transcription. You can generate an outline from it, for example. Again, you'll see all of that in the demo. We then give you a few tools that allow you to go through and actually refine your notes after class and elaborate on the things that you actually care about and put things in your own words, stuff that you would do after the event. And then we also have a few tools that help you work with those notes as well. The main one that I'll focus on in the demo is a quizzing tool. So it's a very simple process when you get into it, and you'll see that live in a minute or two. Now, if you haven't came across us before, it is worth noting that we're not exactly a new company. We've been around for about 15 years, and there are lots of people already using this tool. It is quite big in universities in the US. And one of the things we always do is survey them to find out, is this actually helping you? And I don't want to dwell on this, but the results from our 2024 survey suggest that it is working. 85% of people saying that it helps them become more confident in the studies. 91% said it helps them to better manage information overload, and 84% are actually telling us they're getting better grades. Um, I'm not ashamed to show those figures because we're very, very proud of them. But we do know it works, and I'm paid to say that, of course, but our users are telling us it works, and that's why we're spreading the message a bit wider about what Glean does and how useful it is. Now, the one thing that I'm going to touch on quite a bit in my demo and wanted to be a focus of this webinar is all about AI, because we've been around long before there was any of all of this weird and wonderful AI technologies available. But it's impacting everything, and it's impacting assistive technology. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you this. And we've been wondering how to utilize this technology within Glean for quite a while now. And I like to break it down like this. So what role can AI have in the note-taking process? Well, first of all, you could argue that it has no role whatsoever. Some people would definitely argue that. Our role, or our more of our opinion, is that we want to use AI to assist. If we really wanted to, we could fully automate the note-taking process now. You could get a transcript of this session, plug it into ChatGPT or one of the many tools that exist, and then get it to give you some notes. And the thing is, not using AI whatsoever is slower, definitely going to require a lot more effort. Chucking this into ChatGPT and getting it to give you some notes is much faster, and it requires far less effort. But the thing that we're always reminded of is that the goal as a student isn't to get a set of notes. The goal is to learn the information in class. And that's why I always remind myself of this quote. I've used this quote many times in the past, but it's just a reminder that there's no shortcut to learning. You do have to put some effort in if you want to learn things. This is a quote that I pinched off someone that I follow on LinkedIn, but I just think it really resonates with me. And it's just a constant reminder that although we've got all of these technologies that can do things for us, if we completely remove all of the human effort, then there is very likely that not a lot of learning is going to happen. And I think that's everyone in the assistive technology field should bear this in mind. And what it means for us is that we have a specific approach to the use of AI in Glean. The first one is transparency. A lot of questions arise as soon as you start talking about AI-powered functions. If you want to know about any of ours, we are very, very transparent. Everything is listed on that link. I'll provide that link in the chat later if you want, or you can look back through the video. And it tells you all of the AI-powered functions, everything that powers it, exactly what they do. So that's the first thing. There's far too many things I see these days that have AI-powered functions, but you've got no idea what they're doing. In terms of how we use it, though, I think that if there is a AI-powered feature that can remove a constraint that makes it impossible for you to learn or study, then yes, we want to use that. Yeah, we don't want something to just do the work for you, but if it removes a barrier that you have, I think that's a great use case for it. I also think there's an argument for AI making things a bit more efficient. Not completely shortcutting the process, but there's a lot of wastage that happens in learning. And if we can use AI to get rid of some of that wastage, it's just going to give you more time to focus on the things that actually count. So there's two principles we've got. The other principle is that as a user, you should always remain in control over the functions that you're using. So none of the stuff we do in Glean, we force upon people. We've got 4 AI-powered features, and it's entirely up to you whether you use them or not. And the last one, this is more for anyone who's interested in the data security side. One of the biggest concerns people tend to have when it comes to the use of AI in tools is who's using that data? Where's it going? Is it being used to train other people's models? None of that can happen with any of the AI things that we use. None of that data can be used. It's used for one specific purpose within the software and that alone. If you do ever have any questions about this side of things, though, because it comes up more and more, please do get in touch with me afterwards. But I do, though, want to move on to showing you it. But I just wanted to set the scene with those slides and that explanation about the AI side of things first. But I want to jump in now to show you what you can do. So first of all, you can use Glean on any device. I'm on a Mac. I'm running Glean via my browser window, but you could do this on a Windows device, Chromebook, Android, iOS. It doesn't matter. You're going to be able to use Glean on all of them. And there's lots of different things you can do with it, but the essentials are really simple. And that's why I can show you the essentials in a little over 10 minutes. So I'm going to give you a scenario. I am a student about to attend a class, and I want to use Glean to help. So what do I do? Well, first of all, I would go in and create a new event, and we'll just call this demo event. Now, as I mentioned, the first principle of using Glean is to capture all of the information. Predominantly, that is somebody talking, but can also be the presentation slides that are used as well. If you happen to have those presentation slides, you can import them into your notes before class even starts. You can also do this afterwards, of course, if you want, or you don't have to use any slides at all. But let's pretend I've got some slides that are being used in class. I can import them in here before single words said. As soon as class starts, though, I want to capture everything that's said. So what I do is record. And you can record whether you're in person or online. I am in person at the moment because I'm in the same room as my computer. So I'm going to start recording via my microphone. As soon as you start recording in Glean, every single word is now being captured. So you don't have to worry about writing everything down. We also visualize all of the audio that's being captured as well. So if you look on the right-hand side, those gray bars that are appearing is just a visualization of the words that I'm saying right now. You don't have to have that displayed. If you find that to be a distraction, you can hide it away. But it breaks those little bars up. They're like blocks of speech, basically. And we do that for a number of reasons. One of them is so that we can tag moments in time in the audio that we might want to go back to. I'll show you how to do that in a second. But I want to introduce you to our first AI-powered feature. And that is we have a live captioning function. Now, it's important to say that there are actually two different versions of Glean. One version that has this feature and one that doesn't. The students that tend to use this or get this version tend to be those with hearing loss who might also benefit from having the text on the screen as they're listening back. And it works like captioning does in pretty much any other program. You turn it on and you turn it off. If you want to see what it looks like, very straightforward. I can just click my CC button to turn it on. Now that I've turned on the live captioning function, everything that I say should be captioned on the screen in real time. The default language for the captioning tool is in English, but you can change it. I think there are about 20 different languages available. It's important to say that this is obviously AI powered, and although it is accurate, the accuracy is entirely going to depend on the clarity of the input, something that I think is just honest. If you have really bad audio quality that's going into this, you're going to get far more errors in the captioning. This is not a human doing this. This is a computer. And I'll always say that if you have a student who needs word for word, 100% accurate, then an automated system is never going to be sufficient and you have to get a human involved. Unfortunately, getting a human involved tends to cost a considerable amount of money. So this is sometimes a happy medium for those who need that additional live captioning, but it doesn't necessarily need to be 100% accurate all of the time. But as you can see in this demo, it does a pretty good job, and you'd struggle to find anything else that does as good a job as this. We know that because we've tested it extensively. and we'll turn that off. So that is live captions, first AI powered feature. Like I say, some students have that on their version, some don't. It's not fundamental to using the software. I find it to be a distraction. I don't like seeing the words on screen. Anyway, some of the more basic and essential functions with Glean, I do need to mention them. If you want, actually, while you're recording, you don't have to do anything. You can just let it record. But sometimes doing a little bit of note taking is useful. It also makes it easier for then you to go and revisit this audio file afterwards. And the idea with Glean is that any note taking you do live in the moment is very, very brief. You don't want to be doing a lot. If you do too much, it makes it harder to listen. So you've got a few easy functions you can use in Glean. The first one is a basic text note. So if I was listening to someone and I thought, oh, that's an important point, I might want to listen back to that later, I could just start typing a brief note. So maybe someone's talking about something that's on an exam. I might just type on exam and then hit enter. Now, every time you add a brief note like this, it adds it to your notes feed, it timestamps it, and it also visually links it to the moment in time in your audio file. So what this is allowing you to do is to just bookmark things that you're listening to that you might want to go back to later on. And you can do that with a simple text note. You can also do that with a label as well. So this one here is the favorite. This is the important label. So you don't have to write anything. If you hear something and you think that's important, you can just click on the important label. Does exactly the same thing as the text note, adds it to your feed, timestamp as it, but only this time I didn't have to write anything. Other things you can do with this, slides. If you were sitting in this class now and the teacher moved to the next slide and you wanted that slide to be in your notes, it's quite useful to do that because it kind of breaks things up into sections. You can post the slide into your notes. It's very straightforward. There's nothing complex about doing it. A couple of the other more fancy features in here, which I'll very quickly tell you about. There's a task function. I use the task function all the time. Maybe I'm told I've got an essay due or something like that. The task function is great because you can add due dates to it. It helps you to manage your time a little bit better. And for anyone who wants a bit more of a freehand note entry type tool, there was a scribble function as well, where you can draw on the screen. Although I would say that this function works far better if you're doing this on an iPad or an Android device, because you can scribble with your finger a little bit easier. And they're all of the interaction tools that you would use live in the moment. You don't have to use any of them, but doing something can help people stay a bit more attentive, first of all, doing a very, very brief amount of note taking. But then it also gives you a little bit of structure. So when you're going back through this later, you can go back to those key points a lot easier. So I'm just going to stop the recording there. Now, the first thing you would do when you go back to this recording is AI-powered feature number 2, which is transcription. All accounts. The only function that's different on the two different types of editions we have is that live captioning. Everyone has transcription. And this is post-recording transcription. So it allows you to convert all of the audio, but not in real time after you've finished recording. Again, you can do this in multiple languages as well. I'm going to do this in English. And it will take a couple of minutes to transcribe an hour-long audio recording. This recording wasn't particularly long. I think I was talking for, what, 5 or 6 minutes. So it shouldn't take it that long to transcribe this. Once it's finished transcribing, you're then basically going to have all of your transcripts sat there next to your audio. Now, again, you don't have to use this function if you don't want. Glean and our previous software, Audio Note Taker, was around long before transcription. But I do think it adds a different dimension to this. Because what it means is that when you come to play things back, you now have options. So for those who don't want to use the transcript, if you're wanting to play something back, so let's just go back to the starter here, you can just pop your cursor wherever you want, hit the play button. As soon as you start recording in Glean, every single word is now being captured. Me talking back from a few minutes ago. But if you want to see the transcript whilst the audio is playing back, you can toggle into that view, do the same thing, and you get the transcript as well. As soon as you start recording in Glean, every single word is now being captured. So you don't have to worry about writing. And some people will just find it easier when they're playing things back to also have that text to refer to as well. But usually, when people go back to their recording, they don't want to listen back to everything. They just want to go back to key moments of interest. So what you can do is, well, one of two things really. You can either go back to the key moments of interest that you identified yourself. So each one of these entries that you made, if you hover over them, has a little play button. So if you wanted to go back to what I was saying when I made this scribble, for example, all you would need to do is hover over this, hit the play button, and it will jump straight to that moment in the transcript. I'll just press play so you can see that in action. And for anyone who wants a bit more of a freehand note entry type tool, there was a scribble function as well, where you can draw on the screen. Although I would, yeah, so it just jumps to those key moments that you identified live in the moment that you want to review. But what happens if you have not managed to take any notes whatsoever? You've got nothing in this middle section here. Well, what I'm going to show you, I'm going to open up a demo event to use for this because I didn't have enough audio in there really to showcase it. Let's say you've got an event like this, right? And you've got nothing in here. What are you going to do? Well, you don't have to listen back to all of it because our third AI-powered function in here is an outline tool. Now, what the outline tool does is it looks at this transcript and then it identifies different topics of conversation and it breaks them down into chapters. And it will give each chapter a heading and a very brief explanation. And it looks a little bit like that there. So this is literally Glean analyzing the transcript and breaking all the information down into chapters. Now, what's really nice about this is that all of these chapters are linked to the content as well. So it's not just random text sat there. So it means that if I'm going through this afterwards and I think, oh, I'm not quite sure what was talked about in here, I need a bit of a summary, a bit of a recap, I can review all of the topics of conversation. And then if I want to focus in on one of them, if you click on any one of these chapters, so let's say I clicked on this retrieval practice techniques, and then I go and hit the play button, it will play back from where this information was discussed. So it's a great way to help you navigate anything that you've recorded so that you're spending your time studying afterwards on the information that you care about and not wasting that time trying to find it. And we deliberately, because of what I explained earlier about our principles, we limit the text in here at the moment to just 15 words, because what we don't want to do is to put too much information in this outline to disincentivize people to actually go and take some notes. Because we're firm believers that you putting the effort into the note-taking process, going back into this, listening back to stuff, writing things in your own words, that's such a vital part of learning the information. We don't want to do too much for you. And that's why we specifically limit what the outline does. It's a navigation tool, but it wants one that works really well. And the last one to show you, I told you there was 4 AI-powered tools. One of the best study strategies you can use is retrieval practice, where you can go in and you can test yourself and see what you can remember. And to help facilitate this, we've got a tool that we call Quiz in Glean. Now, this is an AI-powered tool. What it's going to do is analyze your transcript and then generate a series of multiple choice questions based on that information. And then you can go ahead and practice retrieving the information. So I'm not going to try and go through all of these quiz, but you can see how it works. Asks a question, and then you try to answer it. And then it will go and generate another question. Initially, it asks, I think, 5 questions, and then at the end, it prompts you to view a little bit of a summary. So you can go in here, you can show the results, tells you what you got right, tells you what you got wrong. You can then go and retake exactly the same quiz, same questions, or you can generate a new quiz with a new set of questions. But it's a great way to start utilizing the information afterwards in a bit of a different way, rather than just like mindlessly writing reams and reams of notes, actually testing yourself and quizzing yourself on the content. It's a great study strategy. And they are the four AI powered features that we've been adding to Glean probably throughout the past 18 months now, I would say. There's obviously a lot more you can do with it, but I just really wanted to give you a bit of a flavor as to how it works, some of the new things that we've been putting in here. I would encourage you, if you would like to go and test this out yourself, you can. All you need to do is request what we call a demonstrator account, and then you can go and have a play with this. Give it a try. I tell you what I'll do, because I'm conscious of the time and I do want to stop talking soon. I'm going to put a link to this page in the chat window, and there's a little button here where you can request a demo account. All you need to do is tell me who you are, and I'll set you up. And then you can go and try all of this and see if it works for you and demo it to other people if need be as well. And that's all I was going to go through, because again, I'm conscious that I've just hit the half an hour mark I've been talking for.
So we
So,
do have a few questions in the chat,
hmm,
and I'll just read them off one by one if you're okay with that.
yeah, of course.
The first question says, does the personal version of Glean include the transcription feature?
Yes. So just to summarize, there's only two versions of Glean. We call it Glean Notes and Glean Notes plus captions. And the only difference is the live captioning feature. So the one where whilst you're recording, the text appears on screen. The transcription, the post-recording transcription, both versions get that. If you're wondering why we have two separate versions, without going into detail, one of them costs quite a bit more than the other. And unless you really need it, there's no point in paying for the live captioning. We find that it's a function that some people really find beneficial and need because of maybe having hearing loss or other challenges. But for others, they don't need it at all. So that's why we have two versions, so you can pay for what you need, I guess.
Okay. The second question reads, do you have to manually add each slide to the transcript during the lecture?
Yes, because you're using Glean on your computer. It's not connected to what the presenter's doing. So there's no way it would know when to add that slide automatically. Um, and not everyone wants to add this every single slide in either. So you kind of have control. You add it if you want. One of the good things to get used to using if you're a Glean user is a lot of the keyboard shortcuts. I was showing you how to do it with the mouse, but you can add a slide just by pressing like Control and Enter. It's very quick ways to add them if you need to, but it is a manual process.
Okay. And finally, the last question in the chat says, can you hover over the items in the outline and have a text reader provide audio?
Uh, well, I haven't tried it, but I know that it's designed to work with screen readers. So everything in Glean should work with screen readers. I don't have a screen reader to be able to test it with personally, but yes, if you've got one, please do try it. It should work with all screen readers. I know we test it with them.
Okay, excellent. Does anyone else need to come off of mute to verbally ask their questions, or are we feeling good about this little mini presentation?
I appreciate if you've never seen Glean before, some of that might have been, oh, quite a bit of information. But did want to focus on some of the AI powered stuff. And like I say, if you want to know a little bit more about it, get one of these accounts. And we also run regular, like longer training sessions as well. I'm going to put the link to that page that I just showed you in the chat now. Hopefully everyone can see that. And like I say, if you go on there, there's lots of like training videos and stuff like that. But it's that demonstrator account I would encourage you to request, because there's nothing better than just having a go and having a play with it. And it's no strings attached. It's a complimentary account we're giving you.
And I'm going to copy the link that you just put into the chat because I will go ahead and send this in our follow-up email as well.
Yeah, feel free.
Um, Thank you so much for this information. It was very informative. Um,
Jesse? Hi, it's
Hi.
Adam. Lee, can I ask you one quick question?
Yeah, of course.
Well, thanks very much for the presentation. It was great. I know a lot of people are worried about, AI making things up. And how do you guard against that with the AI tools that are used in Glean, especially with things like the quizzes and the outlines?
Yeah. So all of the AI powered functions in here, the outline and the quiz, the only source material it's using for that is the transcript. So it's not going off to scour the internet for additional information to put in here. So in theory, it's all going to be based off what's in the transcript. The reason I say in theory is because, as you probably know, all of these AI tools, for reasons that I don't even think the developers truly understand, can occasionally do these hallucinations, as they call them. So it's not infallible. I've never seen it do anything weird, but it would be impossible to say 100% it would never do it because that's the nature of the tools that power these things. But in theory, yes, it only uses the content in here. So it should not make up information or stuff that's not already there.
Yeah.
And we did have another question pop up in the chat. There's a request if you're able to show us the quizzes.
Yeah, so the quizzes is it's just what I showed at the end there. So if you basically go into this quiz button here, it just generates a quiz from the transcript. So again, it's looking at the transcription and then it's intelligently trying to decide what questions can I ask this user about the content of this recording, and then it will then start to generate those questions. Um, it probably won't do a good job on the recording I made in that demo. I'm going to try it just out of interest, by the way. So because I there was only like 6 minutes of me talking. So if it's hardly got any information to go off, it's probably not going to come up with the most sensible of questions. But I'm going to try it anyway, just to see. I'm interested. So this is a quiz based off what I said before. So in Glean, what feature allows users to see a visualization of the words being captured as audio is recorded? Visualizing audio waves, tagging moments in time, live captioning function. That's going to be, oh, of course, visualizing the words. I pressed the wrong button there. Yeah, so the visualization of the words in real time is the live captioning function. I should have really got that one right, shouldn't I? I was too quick to click on things. What feature in the slide presentation tool allows users to add due dates to tasks for better time management? Well, that's fairly obvious. That's a task function. What was mentioned as a factor affecting the accuracy of the live captioning. The clarity of the input. Yeah. So you can see how it generates the questions based on the content. Obviously, if you've got like an hour-long content, it's got a lot more to work with. And again, because it's an AI powered tool, you will occasionally come across a question which you think that's not a great question. That's why we have the little thumbs up and thumbs down button so we can get a little bit of feedback on this. I'd like to see some changes to this or some enhancements personally. So at the moment, I'm just clicking on random stuff there. It only allows you to get 5 questions before it shows the results. I'd quite like to be able to kind of like have like 10 questions or 20 questions. And it would be nice to adjust the difficulty as well. I think it would be nice to like set easy, medium, hard kind of things so you can get questions asked depending on, how difficult you want to make it for yourself. But what we tend to do with feature development is we'll launch something, see the feedback we get from users, and then iterate on it afterwards. I know it's used a lot though, and we tend to get some really good feedback from it. So it is working pretty well. Again, try it. One of the things you can do, actually, you might find this interesting. I don't know how many of you sit in a lecture, but you can also import audio files. So if you've got like an MP3 or something like that, import that audio, transcribe it all, and then run a quiz or run an outline, and maybe test it out that way if you don't get the chance to sit in a live session. Because as I say, you can import MP3s or WAV files into here. I often do this when I'm listening back to podcasts and stuff like that. I'll download the podcast, but I'll just do it within here and then generate an outline, and I can just go to the chapters that I care about. There's lots of different ways you can use it.
All right, well, no more questions have popped up for us in the chat, so I just wanted to say thank you to everyone again, especially to our presenter. We really appreciate you taking the time.
No problem.
And thanks for joining Tech Spotlight, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording.